Perfect. We are live. Hello, everybody. My name is Juniper Bloom Mystique. I am an Ascension Master, Master Healer, and Divine Guide. I'm looking at my thing, making sure it's working properly. It looks like I may be frozen, but I'm not. So welcome. Today is a live with a guest, a very special guest, Lisa. Lisa is here with me to talk about her journey, hopefully to help somebody who may need to hear what she has to say and whatever else comes through, right? It's been a very amazing journey. For those of you who are aware of who I am in fact the one who brought about the ascension. I talk about this all the time, but not only do I talk about it, it is literally on this channel in which you find this video on. Now, I know she won't be able to see the comments or anything, so if anybody does come and comments, I will let her know. But I'm going to allow her to kind of introduce herself in a moment. But really quickly before I do, if you want to know what that means to bring about the ascension, I encourage you to check out this channel. Everything has happened to me and through me as a part of my own awakening since 2019. I had a very rare, unique awakening. I don't know how to explain to this day. It truly was a Kundalini awakening of a powerful kind. My journey is not normal, okay? It would happen to me and through me during workshops, things from clearing Mount Shasta to activating pyramids, including the one at Fiji, returning the root chakra back to Fiji, opening up the God portal, undoing the false concept of time, and so much more. It's quite layered, so I encourage you to check out the videos, but also to just give yourself that time to understand what it is I'm talking about, because there's a lot of lies out there in the world. And what I do kind of contradicts with a lot of what they tell you. So take your time with it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Lisa to say hello, introduce herself better than what I can do, because she has a very beautiful name and she's a very beautiful soul. So good morning, Lisa. How are you doing today? Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them why you're here.
Hi, I'm Lisa Laruex. I first wanted to say thank you very much, Brianna, for having me on today. My journey is maybe a little, well, where all of our journeys are unique. Mine definitely feels that for sure. I would say I don't even know where to start, but other than the fact that I was not in a really good headspace for a really long time. I had my last mental breakdown a year ago, October, and I say last because not only was it the last time it happened, but it was the last time it will ever happen. I now have control over my mind, my body, and working on my soul. So, I got introduced to Brianna through a friend of mine who had a healing with her. And in the midst of her explaining her healing and the powerful expression that was shown in what took place, I just started to smile and kind of giggle. And she's like, "Why are you laughing at me?" And I'm like, "I'm not laughing at you. I need to know who this woman is." and anyway, so that led me to Brianna, where I had a lot of medical problems, many medical problems, in fact, but a couple pretty substantial ones that doctors couldn't figure out. I'd been into the hospital a couple of times. I had seen specialists. And the day that I had my very first healing with her, she didn't know me from Adam. She could see my picture on Facebook for my profile picture and my name. And this beautiful soul right here found things within me that the doctors could not find. In fact, 3 hours prior to my first healing with her, I had left the specialist office, and they told me that my endoscopy showed nothing remarkable and told me to continue to take the medication, which was exactly why I was there, was to stop taking the medications. So when she came into my energy and worked her way through and found the problem in my esophagus, and I was having trouble breathing as well, and she found gray matter between my chest and my and my rib cage. These two things were stopping my quality, like minimizing my quality of life and impacting my job at the time. And she found those things and she healed that. And by the second healing, which was a week later, so within a full week, I was not taking any medications. Well, in fact, I hadn't taken any since 2 days prior, but so I was no longer taking medications. I wasn't using the portable oxygen can any longer. And I had to go and do this, like, stop in my tracks, thinking to myself, like, holy crapolas, how does this woman know this? She couldn't have.
No, I didn't know you at all. It was actually during a live on Facebook. That's right. And you had just popped in there and I couldn't see anything but your picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So it made me stop and go, wow, okay, I don't know. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know any of this. I have no idea. None of it, none of it, none of it. Only just what my friend had been telling me. And that didn't make sense. But what did make sense to me was this woman knew something that my doctors, many doctors, did not know. And she healed me. So I had to stop and think, okay, maybe I need to pay attention. Maybe I need to listen. And I started to watch her videos like crazy. And I'm 7 months in, and I think I've seen everything that you've done almost from the beginning of 2023 forward, as well as almost every single workshop now. I'm about, I don't know, 7 or 8 left. And
that's part of the path to righteousness, right? That's
yes,
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 that is the path home. Yep.
yeah.
But
So gosh,
before
I don't know. I kind of dived in there a little bit more as to who I am. I'm just a single lady, who lives in North America here. Nothing special aside from the fact that I haven't been working. My mental health really impacted my ability to work and function in my life. And I have taken this opportunity to change all of that. And best decision I ever made. Best decision ever.
I do have to tell you, that's kind of a common thread. A lot of times people go into an awakening because their surroundings really do start to get to them. And you're not the only one who is having issues medically or mentally or breakdowns and things like that within our environment, within the work, within everything. And nobody would understand. People couldn't get it. Go to therapy, it wasn't working. Go to doctors, it wasn't helping. And then that causes us to look for another solution, either looking within or just trying to find that other solution. And the moment we do that, we tend to find exactly what it is we're looking for, but we didn't even know that that is what we were looking for. This is actually quite a common thread. It's actually said, and I'm going to tell you this now, I don't know if I've ever said this in a long time on these videos, but I have before. It's just been a minute. Anxiety, things like that. When I would even work the crisis line, this was something that was talked about, right? People who have severe anxiety, people who have all these issues, it's because there's something trying to tell you something. It's like we're disconnected, and I'm getting chills as I say that. We become disconnected from our soul, our body, and our mind takes over. And that is where a lot of these things tend to happen, tend to occur. We're not in our power, and it's truly something trying to tell us, hey, pay attention. A lot of awakenings used to occur because of trauma, of things like this that would happen. And then it would cause people to go within. So our bodies, our mind, when things fall apart, when things are not working, is truly not trying to tell you where to go. And then medications is another common thread. And, we're told so much how, take these, it'll help, take these, it'll help. And then in the meantime, we may get a little relief, right? Especially right away, like, oh, thank God I finally found something. But then what we don't realize is it starts to really coat things. It starts to really numb us from the reality around you. It starts to cut you off from the ability to have laughter and joy, and to even, let alone digest your foods properly. And yet they're like, well, keep taking this, and there's been so many healings that I've had to do where the first thing I needed to do was flush out medications before I can actually heal people. because I don't just bring about the ascension. It started by healings, and doing weird healings. Like, these are miraculous healings, you guys, that I can't even, like, I saw what causes Parkinson's in one of my first healings. I was healing somebody's heart machine when it went awry. And so when she talks about healings, like, they are no joke. They really do start to change you just from that alone. And then from that, like she said, she started watching the videos, but then she started actually my alchemy academy. And then she started going into the path to righteousness. Now, I talk about the path to righteousness, and it seems like it goes over people's heads, right? Like, how can this possibly be the path home? What is your insight into that, since you are actually almost done with it, and about working your way into the gates? Like, is it real? Is walking the gates, is that real? What is your experience so far?
Oh my gosh. Real, incredibly real. It's the hardest thing to describe, like, for your experience. And so I'll do the best that I can, but I'll tell you first and foremost that I have spent my entire adult life, so like 25 years, being medicated for anxiety and depression. And it was the medications that caused all of my, no, not all, but I'll say the majority of my issues. And it was the cause of my last mental breakdown. The path of righteousness helps you bring all of your traumas and your past karma, all of the things that are hurting deep inside you, in your heart and your stomach, and you know how you get really sick sometimes. All of that, it brings it to the surface so you can recognize it, so you can address it, you can heal it, and make the better choice the next time that a scenario is presented to you. And what I'm learning from this is, if you make the same choice again, it gets harder and they get louder, and it hurts worse every time. It's like, get your attention, to get your attention, to get your attention. It's like, wow, okay, wait a second. So now I know why I couldn't work for a while. Now I understand why I've taken this year to find myself, and why this path to righteousness is the real deal. It doesn't matter how many counselors you've seen, how many medications you've taken, how much self-help you've done. All of that is minimal in comparison to what this woman has put together. This woman is the one, and we need to listen. And as you work through this path and walk through this path, you do start to enter gates. Yes. Your life changes. You see things differently, more positively. You'll start to understand why you do or have done the things that you do, the choices that you make. All of that, it comes, you start having full circle moments. And in fact, I was speaking with Brianna yesterday, in one of my one-on-one coaching classes with the Alchemy Academy that I'm in with her. And I mentioned how for all these months she's been telling me, just, it keeps building on it. Everything you're learning builds upon, right? Until all of a sudden, boom, it's like you have this major breakthrough, and you have this clear understanding of, or more understandings of, what is happening. Yes. Why you're doing what you're doing, who's all involved, and who God really is.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. And I can't tell you how much I've cried, but I'm healing. And my friends can attest to this. They see the difference, the massive change in me from a year ago, to the positive influence I am on the daily. And I'm so proud of myself. And this path, this isn't something you can do all on your own. I'm telling you that you can try, and you might be able to get a certain distance, but you're not going to make it all the way home. You don't truly understand what I'm saying until you're on this path to see and to walk it, and to be a part of these workshops, to have all of these healings that are included with this, that help bring everything out of our bodies, out of out of ourselves forward so we can heal.
Yeah.
It's been the very best choice that I could have ever made in my life. And it's the hardest. This has not been easy.
No.
Not
No.
easy. Not easy at all. But I would choose it every time. I would choose it again every time.
Absolutely. I love that very much. I talk often about the portals because when I was during the stuff, activating pyramids and things like that, I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. These things were happening to me and through me. I was not spiritual and I was definitely not religious at that time. I always had God in my heart, right? And I would pray, I would talk to God. I didn't meditate until I had my awakening. These things were just part of my own journey. I just had a sudden awakening. And then I was doing the work, and these were weird things. I sat on Saturn and I rose Atlantis. That was before Spirit told me to record my recordings, before I was doing workshops. Those were witnessed. They were witnessed by the people that were with me at the time, Pamela and some others. And then my very first workshop I actually uploaded too. It was like spell casting because I didn't know what I was doing. I taught myself how to do everything. And if you truly watch those, I talk about the divide that I'm creating between darkness and light, right? And we've been taught for many, many years that, hey, we are meant to be darkness and light. We balance out the darkness and the light. The darkness teaches us how to whatever. I hear these repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly. And I'm sure you can attest to the difference now between the darkness and the light, whereas maybe before you didn't even realize you were knee deep in it, right? Like there's a huge difference. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like what is the difference between darkness and light? And from what you've experienced on the path, why is it crucial? And why can't we just remain half and half? And what is the difference between that and the masculine and feminine side of the yin and the yang? Does that make sense?
Okay, that's a lot. Let's start with the light and the dark. Yes. So, my family always talked about it being, good and evil. And we don't use those words really because it's really the light and the dark represents being with God or without God. So you either recognize that, and we can, let's stop for a second and say, because I'm not religious, everybody knows this about myself, and those that are seeing me change are like, whoa, you're talking about God, you must be religious. And I'm like, no, I'm very spiritual. In fact, I got tattoos to prove it.
Yeah, I love it.
But spirituality, so I started, it would make people uncomfortable when I said the word God. Okay. Yes. And it did me to begin with too. And if because I immediately associated that with religion. Yes. And to me, religion had a very negative connotation. I had a very horrible experience in junior high when my very, very good friend committed suicide. And not only was that traumatic, obviously, but the way the church handled it, and the parishioners and other classmates, it was atrocious, and it scarred me dramatically. And I wanted nothing further to do with the church, and that then also separated me from God at that point, because I felt I couldn't understand how, when the church was telling me that she went to hell because she committed suicide. And how do you tell a 14-year-old that one of your best friends died, who just died and is in hell?
That's horrible. That is nightmarish.
It is horrible. So on my path, what I started when, realizing and recognizing that people might have a similar, trauma, or have similar traumas, right? Maybe situations aren't the same, but we all have some sort of religious trauma. And some names can instill that trauma and some PTSD. So I became, to begin with, was comfortable saying spirit over God, spirit, and then the creator, because both of those I figure more people can associate with. We know, and my belief has always been, even still, even post religious trauma, is that there is something more powerful than myself. Something created all of this, right? All of us, everything that's here, and the abilities of everything. Something created that. That to me is the higher power. That to me then makes it very easy for me to say creator.
Exactly. I love that too. Yeah.
So, light in the dark. The creator, God, source, spirit, all of that is light. All of that is the good, is the positivity, is love, is joy, is every positive word you can place. That's light over here.
Yes.
The dark is everything void thereof. It doesn't have any of it. And it commonly referred to as the shadow rather than say evil. And it has a lot of names. People talk about reptilians, people talk, I don't know. I mean, there's so much, right? But that's all the shadow. That's all void of God, void of source, void of light. So everything that was light is no longer there. And that is within us. We have both light and dark. And the dark part, the shadow, the void of God, is things like our ego that gets us in so much trouble, thinking that we know better, that we can do better, that we don't have to listen. I mean, oh my gosh, there's a laundry list of what the ego is in charge of. And I'm still fighting that. I am still fighting that one.
Yeah.
It's also in expectations, what we expect life should be. We work really, really hard. We should have a good living. We should have this. We should have that. Whew. That's a hard one to swallow.
Yep.
So light and dark, we should not be equal parts. We should not be. We should be void of the void. It should not have any part of that. And the less shadow part in pieces that we have that we're working on, the happier we are, the higher our vibration. And if you don't understand what that means, what that truly is just true happiness. We have joy in our life. We can see love in things that others cannot. The unconditional love.
That's a big one. I feel like religion is all conditional. And what Spirit told me religion is, because when I first had I'm going to tell you right away, I don't talk about this a lot, but when I first had my awakening and I had no idea what the hell was happening to me, I got visions. I got visions of the Bible, and then the words started lifting out. I got visions of Biden, and his skin fell off of him, and I saw what they call a reptilian. And I don't talk about that a lot because that's not my main focus. I'm not here to sit here and go, yes, there's reptilians. Yes, there's this. Yeah, there was also fallen angels, or what you guys know to be El Diablo, because that is the only term that I'm allowed to speak. Because if I've ever said evil, God's like, nope, 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 we don't say that word. But that is what the Bible teaches. The Bible has been manipulated and changed. And it's continually done that for a divide, right? Like that's their power. The more they can divide you, the weaker you become, the more fear that you have. And I love how she said, the more you rise in vibration, and she's gone through this path, because I don't take you layer by layer. I completely get it out of you for you to recognize through every gate, as we've kind of mentioned. And that's a necessity, because if it's embedded, the gates will kick you back and you can't make it through. And I talk about, and you did the animal healing with me too, where we went through the gates. We can talk about that soon, but you can kind of start to feel the difference between the dark and the light, and you rise out of it. And titles, right? Titles is religion is all about too. Like so many different labels, right? Christians to Catholicism to this and that and the other. And what you don't realize is all of that was created by something not of God. God's word was taken and manipulated, and parts of it were true, because that is the only way they can solidify it within you, because some of it you know in your heart to be true. like the way Jesus died. That's controversial, right? The cross, all of these kinds of things. So religion is what Spirit would call that. And during the ascension, I actually eliminated Catholicism. Just saying, she is an apostle. She went through the gates with me. She's done all of this all the way up through with me. She helped me clear Catholicism. We cleared Salem. You guys don't realize how much I did this to the earth, right? All of the earth is free of the void, of darkness, of the shadow, of the contracts, of the fallen angels. I don't know if you watched that one yet, where I burned Archangel Samael.
Yeah, I was with you.
Yeah. Yes, that was in Mount Shasta part 2. And people don't even understand when I talk about Mount Shasta. That is a big shadow piece right there that a lot of people are embedded into in spirituality. And so here you have this combative energy of religion to spirituality, and what is God, and how can God cause suffrage, and all of these things when people don't realize the truth, right? They don't understand this. They don't understand the portals. So I know I kind of took that all over the place, but the portals themselves truly are me activating pyramids, right? Now, before I did this stuff, I didn't know shit about pyramids. I'm like, what the hell is a pyramid? I mean, you know, the ones in Egypt, right? But they would never interest me. They're void of light. Like, they were not purposeful at all. I didn't have anything to do with those. So what is your take on activating pyramids? Like, what are these portals?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because actually, so my spiritual awakening truly like took on a life of its own in April of this year. But no, we need to back up some, because, and this is where the pyramids come in, is I'm a huge fan, and I watch Ancient Aliens like crazy, right? Because there was always something to all of this that I couldn't piece together. Like, pieces of things made perfect sense, but I couldn't understand how they combine, right? And I kept saying to myself, particularly with the pyramids, I'm like, there's gotta be an energy source of some sort. There's gotta be something to this. And although I'm only into season 14 out of maybe 20 or something, right? Of Ancient Aliens, and they haven't quite got there. They're starting to see what we now know, but that's been a big part of my pre-awakening, if you will, for like 5 years before, of seeing this stuff, putting things together, and now being a part of these workshops and recognizing how or, well, not just recognizing, I mean, like, being present and witnessing how the crystalline grid is connected to these pyramids, and how the pyramids are in fact very much so control, power, energy for the planet, and ultimately will for all of us.
Yes,
it will come. And so that when you talk about activating a pyramid, yeah, to start with, I'm like, I don't know what this woman's talking about. That sounds a little cuckoo, but okay, I'm going with it, because I know that there's a bunch I don't know yet.
yeah.
But as I've seen and as I'm experiencing now, I do understand that you have to activate each one of these, so that basically, my take on it, and please correct me if I'm not quite right, but my take on it is we're activating all of these because these pyramids are spread out around the earth, around the globe, everywhere, right? And they all need to be connected to the grid, so the power becomes whole and collective for everyone to access. And ironically, I find funny that those in Egypt have not activated.
Not at all.
And even Ancient Aliens talks about the giant one, the Great Pyramid, that it was never a tomb. They found nothing in it, and in fact, it's also been talked about that they're kind of what's a good word, a distraction, if you will.
Yes.
So like something to focus on and make you think about, but they really don't have a purpose other than looking miraculous. I mean, look at the construction, and clearly people had more knowledge at some point in the past than we do again now. And that's always been fascinating to me. It's like, how did we become so damn stupid again? And then we get a little smarter, because I thought, like, wow, the Romans could move water around the city, and then all of a sudden we're throwing our, feces out windows again. What happened?
Yes. And now you should be able to kind of see what happened with Mount Shasta and where Archangel Samael actually was. And you're kind of hopefully able to start to put it together now that, it wasn't Eve that ate the apple, that then God punished them by causing the great flood. God would not do that. Actually, what in truth happened through that is many different instances, right? Where the fallen angel was Archangel Samael. That is who I burned under Mount Shasta Part 2. And Mount Shasta is quite layered. Okay, that was a false veil, which is why everybody thought it was filled with spirituality and all these kinds of things. But in fact, it was filled with lots of darkness, bloodshed, trapped souls that were there that I had to release in Part 1. And there was a triangle with the eye that was trapped above it. This painting was not done by me, by the way. That was done by somebody else before I did the work. They did a reading on me, and that is what they saw me doing. And we didn't know what the hell this was talking about. Saturn's in here with the rings. I sat on Saturn, rose Atlantis. They're all tied together. Okay. So going back to Adam and Eve, which was my lifetimes, you're probably kind of starting to put that together a little bit now too. Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet and Horus. Those are the ones that I have been uniting, the twin flames, which I talk about a lot, just me and my DM. And that is the return of Christ. There's been white light that's been trying to come through me since before my original DM died. When he died, it got bypassed and I did it by myself. But the one thing that has not happened is the light to come through both of us. That's the event. Okay. But Mount Shasta, what they did there is they stole the earth's root chakra from Fiji. Okay, that's what I undid. And they put it at Mount Shasta. They kept the bloodshed. There was a contract there written by Samael that he got one of the twin flames of that time. They were Navajo or some kind of Native American. I don't know if it was a soul of mine. I don't know. But that was Part 2 of Mount Shasta. That was so painful to undo. And once I finalized that, all of God had returned. That's why we couldn't see. It wasn't that we became dumbed down or anything. And they talk about this veil, and we would have to come and clear our karma because the shadow would get you all to create karma and lose yourself from God. And that was the whole entire purpose. That is why they talk about the battle for your soul, the battle between light and dark. And if you were born here, you have shadow in you, period, that you need to make sure you don't carry with you. And then through choices that we make outside of God, knowing or not knowing what we're doing, we create the karma. And that veil would make it impossible to see because the triangle with the eye, the all-seeing eye, was no longer over the God portal, which is what I fixed back to Fiji. So there's pyramids all over the world they don't talk about. There was one under the water in Fiji, and me activating it was using my light. It enlarged my heart to do it. It's God's light. That's what I do. It's who I am. So I take my light, God helps, and we fill these pyramids with light. I'll rotate them. I'll pick them up. I'll fill them with light. I activate them. The language lights up all along the sides of them. I've done many different things, right, with the different portals. And these are the portals we talk about. These are the ones that are talked about in Revelations 21:12. They are the gates that you go through, and you're going to go through regardless if you do my path or not. The earth has already gone through them. We recently processed her death. I took her through the gates of heaven. I got her key, right? I love you're going to get to do that soon too, by the way. I already feel it coming. So it is very real. It's very complex. And I talk about quantum physics. I don't know if you saw that one yet, where I say it is quantum physics related, and they are not there yet. They don't understand that fully, right? They just don't.
We're trying.
They'll catch up.
The thought process is getting there, that's at least the thinking that, hey, this could be a possibility, and black holes and wormholes and whatnot. They're thinking about it. In fact, I do believe I saw something not too long ago, though, that they found a black hole. So they're trying to understand now, how does that work?
No, that's interesting that you talked about that, because did you watch Part 7 where it took us into 7D 1 and 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so that is also on the path to righteousness. I upload it here, but when you do the path to righteousness, it's a total different ball game. Okay,
Oh boy,
I,
yes.
I upload them on the channel just for you guys to witness, and still people are not able to see clearly to do so. I hope that you do. It does take watching them more than once, and we'll talk about that too. But in 7D, I took us through a black hole, and
Yep.
scientifically at the same time they said, oh my god, there's a black hole and it spit out stars, and I was like, whoa, that was weird. So everything I do is actually lifting in the collective soul, in the collective whole. I don't know if you've noticed too, and I'll do something, I know you came in after the fact of the original doings, but I'll do something and then like De La Roca will say it a day or two later. I will say, oh, a new timeline, I've just put us through a new timeline, and then a day or two later other people will go, oh, we're in a new timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, it's not me reading the energies. I've actually created them.
Yep.
That's how I can say I activated pyramids. It's my light. Do you remember where all the pyramids are? There's one in Machu Picchu, Budapest, Thailand,
Yep.
Myanmar,
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Um, the closest one to me is in British Columbia.
Yep. British
So
Columbia, Mount Kilimanjaro. I blew up 3
Mount
times.
Kilimanjaro. Whew, that one's about to come full circle on us here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what you can kind of realize is, it sounds far-fetched. But when you really start to rise into these energies, these portals, these pyramids, and I love how you mentioned the crystalline grid, because I talked about what it meant that I undid Mount Shasta and the flower of life, right? There's a reason that's represented. There's a reason that's talked about, geometric shapes. It's all relevant. When I finally repaired the crystalline grid under the crystals, I replaced all the crystals with light, and it activated and it filled with my light, God's light. I'm not supposed to separate the two, but I did a lot. That's what I did, even to the core of the earth. And now they say the core is leaking. Science is like, the core is leaking. And it makes sense when you do the path, when you actually watch the work I do.
Well, and it had the black dark crystal in the cord that you replaced.
Yep. And that's in the Nile. So
Mm-hmm.
when you go through that Nile portal, you're going to experience that even more. You're getting close to that. The Nile portal is where I solidified I was Sekhmet. They told me when I activated Ecuador, the pyramid in Ecuador. They're
That
like,
was the first
Sekhmet.
one I joined, and I remember you saying, "Oh boy, she's in for it here," because I had watched. Well, I'd watched a lot of them, but I had not. I was witnessing at that point. This one was live. I was with you live, and I talk about that one immensely because you talk about the White House and something happening with the White House, and I've seen it like 3 times, and I still don't know what's happening with the White House because I fall asleep.
Yes, that was around the world excursion. That was when my new DM was in the energy with me. It was Ecuador, Colombia, Congo, and Mount Kilimanjaro. And that was also when I said I need to move Hawaii because I don't want to lose it all. Then I said Krakatau, and 6 days later, Krakatau exploded, actually in real time. So if you're truly watching these, it plays out in our physical environment as well, and you can't deny them. Like, how did I know? I was like, what is Krakatau? I thought I was speaking a foreign language. Like, what is Krakatau? And then 6 days later, it erupted, and I kept saying Hawaii. I need to move over Hawaii. And then what happened in Hawaii, right? Not too long later, the Lahaina fires. And I talk about the fires all the time, like fires, it's going to burn. It's going to burn. What doesn't belong is going to burn. And so they line up. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible how it all works out, but it's very complex. It's not something that's easy to see when you're in the shadow. And so you have now the ability to say, yeah, I couldn't see this at all. It was the healing you did with me that sparked your interest, right? How can I see these medical things when even doctors couldn't see them? And then all of a sudden you're getting better and better and better. And that sparked your interest into the rest. So I love the pyramid thing. I love, and like I said, when the crystalline grid was rebuilt, masculine and feminine light, I repaired all the crystals in the grid to the core of the earth. And that is when it became the flower of life again. Yeah, it's actually very relevant.
And I think so much, I think it's a natural thing for humans to go into judgment when we don't understand something.
That's what
And
they were taught to do. I don't think that's
yeah,
natural. I'll correct that word, but that was a conditioned response
conditioned response. Yeah. Um,
because
it,
that's the shadow.
yeah. And you have to kind of force yourself outside of that conditioning then, right? To say, wait a second, okay, I don't understand this, but I I need to invest a little bit here and understand. um I want to know so I can help myself. I need to understand.
Yes.
And knowledge is power. I know that's so cliche, but it really is, because without the understanding, we all just continue to live this life in this matrix of well, oh my gosh, look at all the terrible things that are happening out there right now. um I feel so much gratitude because I feel removed from a lot of it. And I
I
know
say that
you've
a
talked
lot.
about that, and in the workshops it says you will be protected. We have bubbles, we're taken aside, we're taken away from the earth when a lot of this work is done, so we will not feel that jarring, we will not be and have that impact. Those on the path, those who've been part of the workshops, any of you who wish to join them will have that same protection,
Yep.
and our family members as well.
If they accept it.
Yes,
Free will.
free will, free will. So again, knowledge being power. One thing that I'd like to address two things of things that we just spoke about, because I know when these are things that have kind of confused me, and even when I spoke with some of my friends and whatnot, and they don't have any idea. What is a chakra? What is a chakra? What the heck are you talking about? And why should I care? And then, because then you just mentioned, that Mount Shasta was the root chakra. Now it's Fiji, and people, I can tell you that even my friends would have no idea, right, what any of that means. So, in what I have learned and learning and my understanding of our chakras they are our energy centers for within us, and every energy center has kind of a unique thing that it's responsible for, if you will.
Mhm.
And so, and they run down what we call the silver cord, but
Yes.
it connects us from the heavens above. It's going to go all the way up up to the heavens above, straight down our body, and connects to Mother Earth. And there's movies that portray this literally, and I can't remember. I saw a blip of something the other day where you see all these people. If you see this as energy, you see all these lights just connected,
Yes.
as we're walking. And then we have our aura, which is our protective bubble, right? And that can change colors and different things depending on what's happening in our lives at that moment. So having some understanding that we ourselves in our physical bodies have an energetic body that is a part of our spiritual self, and it is as real, 100%, 1,000%, million% as real and as impactful
More.
as our physical body.
It's actually more. It is the one thing that does not die. It is the one thing that does not change. Where the physical body, we start as little babies, and then it changes. We're no longer that baby anymore. And it's only a temporary vessel to the source that we are, the connectedness to God that we are. Now, you're also in the Alchemy Academy. So that is kind of where you learned a lot of that from. So there's a little separation there. But I love that it's like total full circle moments right now.
Yes.
Love that. Go ahead.
Well, and understanding why we can have a lot of physical ailments, because our spiritual self, our energetic self, has blockages, or has shadow pieces in it that need healed. And once you do that healing, there it was, a little release. Once that takes place, our physical bodies begin to heal.
Yes.
And I am seeing that dramatically. The fact that I said, I dealt with mental health for 25 years. 25 years of being on medications, and they give you, because this one isn't enough, and they got you to your max, and they give you another one and another one. And that was the reason for my last mental breakdown, because the one medication messed with my mind so terribly that I couldn't function.
Yep.
I couldn't function anymore. So removing all of that. And do I still suffer with some anxiety? Yes, I do. I'll be honest. I am still working through my process.
Yep.
But you know what? I can tell you this. I recognize it more now than I ever could have before. Before, I just wanted to escape the world, and I couldn't deal, and I was so overwhelmed. And even with the medications, I think it made it, looking back now, I know there's times it made it worse.
Yes.
It was not better. It was not better.
No,
Sometimes seemed necessary, maybe for a short period of time, but for 25 years, for Christ's sake, serious?
Yeah.
Like, and I am not unusual, unfortunately, right? I am not unusual. I don't know where I was going with all that. There was something important there, I know, but
chakras, and how once we clear them, once we start to clear our energy, understand what it is, go within our body more, we start to heal more and
exactly
more.
And so we clear all that, and then you begin to understand, and then you start to feel again.
Yes, I love that word.
Feel everything.
Which is what people avoid a lot. And that's what medications do, is they block all your receptors. You can't heal. You cannot. And people will argue this with me. I've healed somebody with Parkinson's. It's not a joke, but the medications were so intense. Until he purged those, you would not have the lasting effects of what I've done. What I do with healing is Christ light. If the Academy is a light healer, that's the new earth type healing. It's different. It's not like anything you're used to in third dimensional reality. It's no joke. It's just as intense as the path home. But when I take that light through, the medications will contradict it blocks it. So I will literally have to purge medications out of your system. Once I get there, yeah, then we can totally heal. Now, we are not meant to be sick. In the path home, you also did the unprogramming of the virus matrix. It is all codes. It's all numbers. Where when I return light code, it's like this weird language. It's not numbers. It's literally God's writing. So there's your difference. There's the false matrix to God's true life, light codes. We're light. This is a full circle thing right here.
Yep.
Because if the light can't flow, if the light is blocked, we can't hear God. Our heart is not open. Our heart is not pure. The shadow blocks it from that, all of these things. And in order to get through the gates, you have to hear God. Meditation, the anxiety, all of those things are because we're living in the future and the past, and we don't know how to heal these things. I have a psychology degree. You can go to counseling for many years. They can give you medications.
Which I did.
Yep. And it causes you to be numb. It causes you to be numb to your feelings, to the world around you. It actually causes you to disassociate. When I tell you no, I remember the day I told you, is I'm not your therapist.
Yep.
I am your healer. And it was like a light bulb went off in your head. Like, I can talk about this all I want, but that's not going to heal shit. There are times when we talk about it to process, to look back and look how far we've come. And then everything else is about your power. And that's also about the gates too, is every gate I take you through, you have to call your power back.
Yeah.
And then eventually you realize how powerful you are.
And
Michelle has a question, by the way. Michelle is in the comments and she says, beautiful testimony, Lisa. I'm so proud of you. And I didn't tell you that right away because we were in a DVD in our combo.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good stuff coming out, right? Then she also says, what's the difference between light language and what the church calls speaking in tongues? Oh, that's a really good question, actually. I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to have Lisa speak of her experience with me doing it, because if you're in the path to righteousness, you're going to see mind change. I go from not doing it at all in the very beginning of my pyramid activations to all of a sudden when I started activating, calling my power back more. I was literally returned God's language. And it totally changed. And then I also cut off the matrix from all of that, right? And so tongues is religious based. I would attest that to like voodoo and different kinds of things you can access, right? Different access points of different vibrational energies. Where what I do, light language, God's language is actually what I do. That's the highest vibrational one you can go. That's a direct connection to God. Where if your heart is pure, you don't have to know what I'm saying in here. It makes sense in here. Okay. I will get images. You'll feel it in your heart space. Okay. Tongues, I can't do because it's not of God. There are different access points like reptilians. You know how you hear people talk about, oh, I'm Pleiadian, or oh, I'm Arcturian, and I'm this and that and the other. There's like these portals, right? And that's kind of representative of the portals that I open. And I could feel Lisa going, oh my God, this makes sense. Like, this is making sense. But so there's different portals we can come through, which I've actually closed off all 12 gates that don't belong to God anymore, so they won't be allowed to anymore. Those are the tongues. Religion was based off of very dark energies. Okay. I don't know that you're speaking in tongues. You're putting a title on something that may not be so. If you're connected to God, it's not what I would call tongues. Okay. There is something called light language. You can look all over YouTube. There's people who go, oh, I speak light language. I would say about 8 out of 10 of them are. There's a couple of them that might be what you would call tongues. Okay. So be very careful. It's just like the dark contracts, right? Like that I cleared. That's a really good example. There was one with Jesus that I undid from John the Apostle. That was the Holy Grail, right? There was one I undid with fallen angel, Archangel Samael. And each one I will not speak aloud because spell casting is very real. And so tongues is a type of spell casting from a different energy source. Does that make sense now? Whereas light language comes directly from God's source. Now, God's language was cut off from this earth a long time ago because it was being used for darkness. And the Native Americans will talk about that. They will talk about the mountain and how it was very negative and how their ancestors, some of the leaders were using it in the wrong way, and it was actually taken away from them. And that is what I returned. Okay. So there's layers to that. The people who speak in light language, unless they've had all the DNA activations, they've gone through the portals, and I talk about this a lot, it's not God's language. Okay. They might be getting the lower vibrations of it, but they need to rise that because I've returned it all. So there is that aspect. Okay. Does that kind of make sense? What do you have to say to that, Lisa?
I say, first off, I love how the language changed. When was it at the point where we burned Samael?
I think it really changed
right
in
before
7D portal. Around the time of 7D portal and right before my original DM died, it was changing. That was truly bringing in Christ light.
Because I'm kind of all over the place. Because I didn't start the path.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of here and then there and there and here, you know, like the path when individuals get to do that now, be awesome because you'll get to see it from start to finish.
Yes.
You know, in a chronological timeline where I was not like that. I'm not like that. And so I'm trying to put together the pieces now of, you know, chronologically what took place. And sometimes you'll say, well, no, we can't be connected to the core because of this. And I'm like, wait a second, we're connected to the core, but not in this workshop or not yet. And why? And
I disconnected because of the darkness. Now we can.
So we changed the language. Yeah, I remember you saying that the language changed because the darkness, so therefore the darkness can no longer understand what you're doing because we needed to do some things and have the upper hand at the moment. And so it was awesome.
Yep, you're right on. So when I started bringing down Christ light was when my original twin flame was being attacked by fallen angels. And in those workshops, you might hear me talk about some of those attacks. There were times when Amy had to help heal me. They were trying to kill me. They were literally killing him, and we were connected at that point. But I kept standing strong, and I kept doing it on my own, and I was bringing down more Christ light. And that is when the language started to change. And that is literally when I was cutting everything off when I started the moon workshops, and I undid the dark pull on the moon is when I really cut off the media, when I really cut off all these things. And you can see it being detached now. There's a guy, Earthmaster, I think he is. One of the guys that I watch that does earthquake predictions and stuff, they're always trying to shut him down. It's so interesting. But you can see that they don't report on what's really happening. You can see the detached from the media there. You can see what they were all about, right? Like they are completely programmed. It's like brainwashing at its finest.
Oh my gosh, is it ever?
Yeah, and that is when I did the moon is when I cut that off. A satellite actually fell out of the sky. You can watch that one, and I proved that. I said a satellite's going to fall, and then within 18 hours it did over Oregon. And I said the next time they try to listen in, their ears are going to bleed. And so who I am is not normal. What I do changes the earth. It really does affect things in real time. Who can say Krakatoa, I need to move Hawaii, then 6 days later Krakatoa explodes. Didn't even know it was a volcano. Those are kind of co in hand, volcanoes and pyramids, by the way. And then all of a sudden I said, I need to move Hawaii. How strange is that, right? And then like all of Lahaina just went up in flames, like a week or 2 or 3 later, like not long after that. So what I do
And
is
all of British Columbia
yeah.
and
Oh yeah, that
around
started right
us
when I did
all
that.
fire, covered in
Yep.
fires.
Yeah.
So
And when I did that one, I kept saying fires. I'm causing fires. I see the flames. I'm causing fires. And they did. It started this massive fire. And I said, God will put him out when he sees fit. And these fires are not able to be put out like normal. So if you're really paying attention, and the media is not going to report this, it is the end of days. It is biblical. It is prophetic. What I have done. And as you go through these things, I say many times, it goes with the Hopi prophecy. It goes with Revelations. It actually goes with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I also mentioned that there was pieces they were hiding, and now they're saying there's pieces that are being found. So all of those are very relevant. So Michelle actually says, so she felt like she was filled with source when it happened years ago. What she speaks, whatever you're saying, is not from source. So Michelle, I will tell you at this point, it's not. I told you that you had a twin flame, that you needed healing. And if we aren't getting that, we are getting more and more cut off. It may be a form of source, but it might be very low vibrational. So it just depends on how much shadow is in you to what it is that's coming through. Okay, that's a really good explanation of that. Would I go to a healer that hasn't been activated as much as I know they should be? Absolutely freaking not. I know plenty of them on my path that went into judgment and the twin flame thing, and I would not go to them for healing or messages. Okay, because I know they're knee deep in the shadow. They can't see. And so what they're putting through may not be of light. It truly is a battle for the soul. Like, I'm sure at this point, Lisa can attest to that too, because I take you through those gates. So what do you want to speak about with the battle for the soul? How is that feeling each time you go through a gate?
oh, it's rough. It's really rough. And I have said from the very beginning, and I want to start with this first, because I don't know when Michelle joined, but I did start this off by giving her Adelaide's, and so I want you to know, Michelle, how grateful I am for you for sharing your experience with me. That there are no coincidences in life, and the fact that you felt safe enough to share with me your healing and how powerful that was, you could hardly stand up. That impacted me so dramatically that it was in that moment right there, the trust you put in me is why I'm here today. And I am internally, entirely, divinely grateful to you in every single way. And it's made me very sad to see you not be a part of some of this lately. And I extend every ounce of love to you. The path is hard. The path is hard.
Yes.
The gates are hard.
And the thing
But
is
worth
about
it.
that, everybody will experience those gates. That's that timeline. That's that what they call a doomsday timeline. How can God's work be doomsday? It's remaining in the shadow that's more doomsday, right? Because like you said, when you go through the path with me, you're removed from all of that because I take you through them already. So everybody on this planet is going to experience the gates, and the gates are a karmic kickback, and we'll talk about the animals too. But I just wanted to reiterate that, and we can go back to talking about how the gates kick your ass. It's not.
They do, and that is one of the other things that I wanted to address, really, and have provide a bit more clarity on, because when you say, you know, everybody's going to go through these gates, whether they do the path or not. I think it's important to recognize the difference of what that will look like for each individual, those on the path versus those not on the path. And my takeaway thus far is I have, and because I started this and I'm almost done with it, I'm ahead of the curve. I'm not going to have to be doing this in the midst of mass chaos that's coming. I get to be removed from that. But even still, even if you choose to do this, then that is the best choice ever. But so to me, the difference is we will heal through this. We will have that opportunity to learn those lessons where those not on the path might not see those opportunities, might not get to realize those lessons, and they get harder and harder, and they will smack you in the face like nobody's business until you do listen. And then you might make it through that gate, but you run out of time. You will run out of time to make it through everything. And I don't say that lightly. No. There is not a lot of time left. I implore every one of you to dig deep. Choose love for yourself, for your children, for your families, for your ancestors, for God.
That's a big one for me. Because of what religion did, I feel like we have become detached from the word God. Hurts, and it should never be that way. God does not cause pain. God does not judge. He does not divide. He is pure love. Now look at it as darkness is a very low vibration where love cannot exist. Love is an extremely high vibration that takes us some time to get to, where darkness cannot exist. That is the divide I created. And I know people will talk about, well, you spark fear in me. And I've heard this a lot. And God does not spark fear, because essentially I give you your power. It's all about healing, getting rid of all of that, calling your power back, getting the DNA activations, because Lisa doesn't quite know this yet, but she's starting to see it because she walks with us. She's hearing me talk to the apostles. She knows when she's going to be an apostle for a specific reason. But when you're on the other side, it's not just as easy as one might think. It's not that it's horrible, because it is heaven. It is heaven on earth. But if you are not in your full power, that's part of the path. Sequoia is a really good example of that. I actually take us to Sequoia and I dump your past lives as you call your power back, right? Like you have to be in your power.
Whew.
Yeah, those are intense, because this is a great reset. You will not have your past lives anymore, no matter where you go. It's all being erased. Everything I do deals with the Akashic records. She can attest to that as well, because it's recording your blueprint. What you get rid of, you call your full power back. So when you're actually, this is how I can tell you, all these spiritual people are like, oh, all of you have made it to the new earth. No, you freaking have not, because you have not had a heart review. You haven't got your key. You're not in your full power. unless you are in your full power and in your heart. And this is not easy. I'm sure she can attest to this too. She hasn't fully got there yet, but she will. I know she will. And I get chills when I say that. When you are in your full power and you're creating from your heart center, none of the shadow or anything can take over. You have to know how energy works. You have to know how to create your reality, which is also why I do the 12 and 13 gates to abundance. I'd love it if you talk about those too.
We can hit that next.
Yes.
Oh,
because that's something very intense. When I did the 12 gates of abundance, I hadn't opened up the gate of heaven yet. And they said the contracts that I had to clear was 12 of them, which is all of the gates that I had to clear to open up heaven. So when you put that together, it's like a true full circle moment. But every past life you have has to be brought to the surface. You have to heal all karma. Okay. That's why the gates really kick your ass, because you're not just healing in layers. You are literally taking everything that took you from God and you're not accepting anything again, right? It's like, I choose God this time. You're changing the scenarios that are replaying in your environment. She mentioned that too. It's very real. Once you embark upon it, first of all, there's no going back, no matter who you are. But your life will play like a cyclic notion. Okay. It's like, I've been here before. Heard that, right? I've been here before. Why does it seem like this is happening again? It's shit that you've chosen in the past that's playing out, and it's your job to choose love. It's your job to see it clearly, but you can't do that unless everything's risen out to the surface. Karma, shadow, and all past lives. Because the new earth has to be pure soul that is pure you of God. Now, recently I did one on Patreon where I walked you through God's eye. That was quite intense as well, because I show you the sun and the moon, which is me and my DM, right next. You have to walk through that, right? The light of the sun and the moon completely aligned on both sides. And then I walk you through the retina of God. And in that, I strip you down to what you are of God. That is the new earth. Okay. So
I cried. I started crying at the very beginning and didn't stop until I was all the way through it.
Yep. That is your soul. That is you aligned with God. That is the purity of who you are before all of these lifetimes before. And that is where you get to on the new earth. That's why I can guarantee you, when everybody's like, oh, 5,000 people just made it to the new earth, I can absolutely guarantee you they did not, because that's my earth. I can feel it. Okay. But what you're doing is you're rising through the gates, and then shit just starts to hit you in life. It's like, bam, 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 wait a minute, bam, bam. Like, what the hell, right? That's the gates, my friends, okay? The final gate, you get a heart review. All of your power is back, and you're in full control of your reality, period. You are in full control of creating your reality. The angels don't walk you through anymore. You're not protected because you need to protect yourself, okay? So the new earth is... it's a total different ball game. It is a rebirth like no other. Okay. What do you think? Then that's the 12 and 13 gates. What do you have to say about everything I just said?
I can laugh at this now. In the moment, that was not funny.
I know. But I know. I love you dearly, though. You know that.
Oh my gosh. Well, but you didn't know either. You know, you had no idea, because those of us in Patreon, it was a Patreon healing that she had done for the 13 gates, and Brianna did put out the warning of, or not warning, but the statement that said, it's mostly going to be for witnessing, because you haven't made it through the gates yet, so just be aware of that. And so I went in with that intention that, okay, all right, like all the other videos, all right, I get to just hear and watch. That's all right. And I know when I make it, then I'll do it. Well, that wasn't really right. And as we're going through it, and at that point, I remember you had told me, when this took place, I had only made it through about 3 or 4 gates, which aligned with what took place in this story I'm about to share with you, because as we started to work through the gates, I felt just fine until we started into gate number 5, and I started to get sick, like intestinal distress. By the time, and this is short periods of time, I'm talking,
I do it very quickly. Yes.
Yeah. Boom, kaboom, kaboom. But by the time we made it to 6, I remember listening through getting to the sixth gate, and I had to stop, and I was sick. Oh, intestinal distress. It was horrible. And then everything was, I mean, there were so many distractions after that trying to stop me from doing it, not recognizing that because I wasn't supposed to. Yeah. We didn't know this. But I did finally listen to the rest of it. And I think that was on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And by that, it was Saturday, I had gone out with friends. And even though I chose a very healthy, all I ate was edamame. And I thought, oh, this would be great. I'm going to, I'm out. I'm not going to eat greasy, nasty, stuff. I'm going to eat healthy. Oh, it gave me the worst intestinal distress because it hadn't healed yet, but it wasn't terrible. I got so incredibly sick, and this lasted then for like 4 or 5 days. I was not meant to be there yet, and I recognize that. Yeah, and then I replied back, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. No. And you said do the 12 gates one, and that actually was in my path, like ironically right where I was, like a couple of videos down, and I hadn't even seen it yet. And so when I looked in there, because I was like, where am I finding that? So, but I looked, I'm like,
12 gates of abundance. Yeah, 12 gates of abundance are actually the ascension gates. They're one and the same. So go ahead. What was the experience with that one?
That was far better. It was very, very emotional, like most actually. A lot of these intense healings bring forth a great amount of emotion, and some bring some very powerful full circle moments of understanding. Others bring a lot of emotion without the understanding yet, but just the release needed. Yep. And I don't think I've ever cried so much in my life as I have these last 7 months. But the best tears ever, truly. Yeah.
I don't mean to be happy or crying, but I am, because
no, I know, because it's really is a good thing.
Yes.
Crying, I had an ex who used to call me a crybaby. And so I was so sensitive, that I was too sensitive.
Yep.
No, thank you. You call me that all day long. I will take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I had somebody actually argue that with me recently, is I'm broken, I'm much too sensitive, and I need better tools. And I said, I've given you every tool you need to create in the new earth. If you choose not to use them, you're not going to be able to create in the new earth. If you say you're too sensitive, men don't cry, all these conditioning statements that we, even my dad, I used to play baseball. He busted my shin with the bat on accident, and I went to my knees in tears, and he's like, up, don't cry, shake it off. It's like that conditioning. We were taught never to cry, never feel emotions. You're broken. Something's wrong with you. And this is actually what medications do in the psychological sector. And I know this because I've had med school. I have a psychology degree. Okay, put it all together, and what do you get? They block your receptors, all right? So you can't feel, you become numb to the world around you. You have to be in your body, which is what I've been working with you. It's a struggle to get back there sometimes, let me tell you. You have to be in the here and the now, and you have to be in your body to feel, because you can't be a healer, my friends, unless you can feel everything there is to feel. And does it hurt like a son of a bitch until you're fully healed? Absolutely it does. It hurts. It hurt me. Every gate that I did, by the way, I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but you don't know the pain I went through. None of you will come close to what I had to survive. Thank God for that. Okay. So I know how difficult it is, but I was actually going up against 3 fallen angels that whole entire time. And the attacks were centripetal. They were huge. They were massively large attacks on me. Okay. They took down my whole entire physical vessel. My arm was shattered into pieces, and I could not have surgery. I could not take pain meds, because why? If I did, my DM would have been dead a long time ago. Okay. Because he was actually with a fallen angel, because it blocks your ability to feel. Okay. Even a simple Tylenol, even a simple pain med, all of it blocks your ability to feel. If you cannot feel, you're not heart-centered. I guarantee you that. Okay. We have to be sensitive. Bullshit on the word sensitive. That's what I call powerful.
Yeah. And feeling, you know, when yes, it blocked it, you know, and we think that it helps, right? And maybe in the moment sometimes it does.
For like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Relief. I feel relief.
Yes. But what we also don't recognize, it blocks the good things too. It blocked joy from my life. It blocked unconditional love. It blocked abundance in many ways.
I love that. Yes.
And I'm so I'm I like I said earlier, I still struggle. I have moments, you know, but they are they're temporary now. Now they truly are. They might not feel it in the moment, but the moment that I surrender and I say, okay, God, I need to know, because this is a recent experience for me, that Lisa had a moment. I'm talking about myself in the third person here for a moment, because that Lisa is not who this Lisa is.
Yes,
so,
it's a rebirth. Yes, that's beautifully said.
But that old Lisa reared her nasty, ugly head about 3 weeks ago. And it was bad. It was really bad. And then I had to apologize. I had to own my shit, which I did and am doing.
That was a portal.
At the same time, I remember even in the heat of the moment, because I was so angry. And I didn't care. I did care. But in that moment, I couldn't control it. But I was recognizing it. And then the next day, boy, it really hit me. And I knew it. And I immediately, I woke up that morning and I replied to the email with the apology. And I said, well, that doesn't matter. All that's irrelevant. But I apologized. Because that was not me. I don't know where that came from. I did not like it. I hated how that made me feel. And I was like, there's no way. I'm not going backwards. That girl died a long time ago. Cause that girl has not been here for many years. And that shadow piece came back to like stab me so hard. But I could have kept with it. I could have fallen off. I could have. And you told me on my healing a little over a week ago, and you said something really hard tried to push you off your path. That was it. That was that moment. And it was in that moment, that next day, when I said, no, I'm not going to let this happen. I have come too far. I am too happy. I can see the light in every which way, right? The light at the end of the tunnel, the light of God, the light within myself. Why would I choose that?
Exactly.
That was the void. That was the shadow. That was the darkness. And that girl was dead. And I don't want that girl ever again in my life. Now, do I have ramifications? Yeah, I got some dealing. And as I should, right? I made a mistake. I own that mistake. And I will be humble and recognize it. What I've asked is that God recognize my recognition and to help me see through this process. Yep. Because I send that person love as well.
Yeah.
And I sent her a flower from our first day meditation of our 21-day meditation course. She was the first person I sent the butterfly, excuse me, the butterfly, that I sent her a butterfly.
Love and magic. I love that one.
Because I knew I had made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Was I right in where my thinking is, what was necessary? Sure, all that could be correct. But the way that I handled the situation was absolutely not.
So
And
there's a thing about that. That is part of your karma playing out.
mhm,
Those are where you would choose against God many times over. And as you go through the gates, that's the lessons. That's what Revelations 21:12 talks about. And these are the gates. This is no joke, you guys. These are the
mhm,
gates I opened. It is biblical. You are right with God when you do my path. There is no doubt about that. You are right with God. Okay. Um, First of all, God is not unforgiving. Let's eliminate that from the thing. God is all forgiving. He loves everybody. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, yellow, blue, green, gray, lesbian, gay. Does not matter who the frick you are. Okay. The only thing that judges are people who are not in the light. Okay. Judgment is not of God. So that needs to be eliminated from our collective soul, and it will be either way. But what happens when you're on the gates is your karma will try to tempt you again. Okay. These are
mhm.
things where you have chosen before in this lifetime, past lifetimes, because as I read your heart, it's every lifetime, my friends. Okay. Your heart review is every lifetime. It's not just this one. Because to get into heaven, that's the new earth. Okay. And so everything, all those karma blueprints have to be cleared. And she is describing perfectly how she is working through the gates, and these things are coming up to tempt her. It's coming up, and it depends on who you are and what your karma is. Me with my path, it goes back to Adam and Eve. That was the first lifetime I started undoing. And so it was temptations of like another partner coming in. Like my DM got tempted by a female who ended up being a fallen angel, just like he did it when he was Adam and Eve. That's what happened to Eve. Okay. That's what happened. That's where darkness came in and took over, as he chose a false goddess. So that did actually play out again, but it also happened to me, right? Like he treated me badly, and then we split up and ended up with different people. So that was one of my temptations. Another one was drugs. I didn't do drugs, but he did. So this kind of gives you more insight. He was the original one, major into coke and things, and these were things that he was supposed to overcome. Okay. I loved pot. I did. That's the only thing I ever did in my life, because I grew up with heroin addicts and stuff, part of the karmic creation. Okay. But I didn't do them. I loved pot, though, I'll tell you that right now. And so I did that a lot. And so that is what I had to overcome, but it was like the biggest temptation you can imagine for me. And so depending upon where your karma is, depending upon what it is you need to clear, will play out as you go through these gates. It doesn't matter whether you're on their path or not. The difference to the path is I bring it all out to the surface for you. That way you can go through the gates, hopefully see clearly, choose love again, call your power back, get your DNA activations, and move forward to the next. And that's exactly what's happened with Lisa. And she talks about chakras. Not only do we get you through the gates, I completely evolve your physical vessel.
Yep.
There's been many healings where it's, I upgrade your insides, your neurological system. It's not just as simple as, oh, yay, light codes coming in. You can only receive them if you're open enough to do so. Okay. So yeah, that's do you want to talk about the gates with the animals? Because I didn't for some reason record that one. It was where a group of us, right? It was supposed to be the apostles, but Lisa's been included in all of that. She's been on the path. She is going to be an apostle for a reason. She has a very big heart. She's love. She has no problem giving love, seeing love, and wanting love. That's a great determination right there. But she partook in the animal gates with me, and it was another one like the 13 gates. Like I had to step ahead. She couldn't help with all the gates.
Oh.
Yeah, give a little description of what that one was for me.
And that was so sad too, because I had recorded it. I had screen recorded it, and it was in the very beginning. And I didn't know that in doing so with the screen recording on an iPhone, if you're wearing AirPods, it then won't hear.
I've learned
I'm
that.
like, I don't. Anyway, it didn't record. It recorded her beautiful face. And that was it. Because it was really just audio is all that was needed for that. So unfortunately, that one will remain with I think there was 4 of us or 5 of us in total, who got to witness and be a part of that. And what I do remember very intently was the beauty of it. And every one of my friends can attest to this, that if there is one thing that I have true unconditional love for, it's canines. So, but the animal kingdom in general, canines in particular.
You'll be an animal healer, by the way. That is part of your
and I'm so looking forward to that. Woo!
yeah.
But doing this and helping these animals, it was so personal to me. And I remember like just kind of I was crying at some points, you know, because we would bring them through. We had to go through all the gates, and the first couple of gates seemed pretty easy, and you know, and it was,
You're talking every animal. I bunched up every living creature on this planet.
Right. And even wasn't there some plants involved too?
Yeah, every living thing on this planet, from all the plant life to any species that we know of or don't know of. Yep.
Right. And it was really, really sad because there was times when we get to the gates and they would like bounce off the gate and they couldn't come. And we'd look at them, and I mean that sadness because it was us as human beings who had made the changes to that animal or that plant or that being, that sentient being, that made it so they couldn't ascend. Yep. And that disgusted me. It was so hard. And I remember you kept saying in it, and I really feel like you were talking to me to some extent, although you've never said so. No. But you had mentioned how, you know, if you're too connected, if you're too emotional, it's okay. It's going to be hard on you. You know, you might need to back away. And it was very, I was very connected to it. I very much was. It did make me really sad. It was hard in those first few gates, seeing some of them kick back.
It was hard for me to do it because I was the one doing it.
Yeah.
I had to not accept some of those beings through at all. And I had said that the karma will go to those who created it.
Yes. Yeah. And it was in that one where we saw, that was that workshop, was it not, where we saw where the viruses came from, like the GMOs?
Yes, right then I said there will be an exposure.
Yeah.
Of the plant that created the V.
Yeah.
In California, hours after that workshop, they had exposed the plant, and there were dead animals. There was like addresses going to China that did not have a location at the end of them because they were trying to pinpoint it on China. This is the part of Kilimanjaro that's coming up that you have not seen yet, because actually the ones who are responsible for creating the actual sickness itself and the V, they're both patented by Bill Gates, by England, yeah, the monarchy, and by the United States government. And it was in that was exposed, and I said there will be exposure, and within hours that plant in California was exposed.
And that was a huge exposure. Huge. But
people are still like not getting it. They're still like, oh my God, rush and get your next load of V. And then they wonder why all these other diseases are coming back, which are all man-made. We're not meant to be sick.
Yep. And well, and that one with the well, that was the Matrix virus removal, I think, that had all the codes in it. And it talked about like HIV. That's
actually in the V vaccine.
Yeah.
Traces of the HIV in the creation of the V vaccine, and some other things as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, there was this laundry list of all these illnesses that were man-made. And
it's sad. But the animal ones, you know, I remember, because I don't know why I didn't record this one. It was because of whatever reason, something was going on at the time. And so it was just something I needed to get done quickly. And so I just literally called the meeting. And those that heard the call were all the apostles and you. These are the ones that I walked through the gates. Lisa is on her path, and she will soon be there. And that's why I was like, wait, you won't be able to go through the last gates. And she wasn't able to help me send them all through in the last gates, but she did get to witness it all. And I continually say that there's a karmic kickback. If your DNA is messed with, there's a reason why all this correlates, okay? Because if you think for 1 second that there was no coincidence to when these V's were pushed, to when this thing came out, knowing the ascension was coming, because they knew, trust me. And the fact that it messes with your DNA, because as I would bring the animals through the gates, there were certain ones I could heal their DNA. I was able to stop, drop, and listen and heal their DNA. Now, Lisa's had healings from me. That is part of some of the healings that I do. I do some mass healing that is not normal. Okay. So healing DNA absolutely is something that I do. I was able to repair some of their DNA. It's also so that some of them were not alive at all. Some of them were robotic, created to look like the species that we have. There was like some spiders and things like that. Fleas, different things that are actually created for the purpose of making people sick. Okay. So when you put it all together, what do you get? One corrupt matrix that is about to burn and fall. And if you are attached to it at all, you will go with it. Now, that is where the fear comes in, is that we're on a timeline. The work I've done is complete. It's completed. Okay. When I finished Mount Shasta, Fiji, all of that completed the full circle of everything that I did. And I birthed the new earth recently.
Yeah.
You were at that one, and I took it through the gates. Okay. And I said, anything that doesn't match will burn. And then we had more fires spark up, one in Hawaii, more in California. And can they explain how they're started? You can try all you want. Okay. It doesn't make sense. It's a little bit cuckoo, because it actually goes with the work that I did. So it is very sad. You know, it is emotional. That's why when I say I don't agree with the people who are like, grab your popcorn, let's sit back and watch what's about to unfold. I don't like to see death. I don't care if they cause suffering or not, right? But there's also people who aren't hearing the call in time. Because when I cleared the Nile, were you in that one originally when I cleared the Nile?
Yep.
Describe the Nile for me, Lisa, would you?
Isn't it one of the longest rivers in the world? First of all, I'm not sure what to say about all that, because I've seen it twice, but it's one of those that I haven't journaled on yet. So a lot of it,
Yeah, you haven't got
whatever. But what I do remember about this really poignantly was that I remember when they put they took you aside, because we were someplace, like, you know, all this is energetic, but we're like over here. And they say if the Nile's over here. And I remember them taking you, and they put you in your feet. You were standing in the water then. And then talking about how, you know, like they purified you and they did whatever they did to you. And then all of a sudden, the water turned red.
blood red.
And then it dried up.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, I don't know, 2 days, if even 2 days later,
Next day.
The next day,
Yes.
Japan. So wait, blood red, and you were told you were Sekhmet.
Yes, I called back my power from that lifetime, right?
Yes, and Sekhmet, Sekhmet was in essence, oh, and I don't want to mess this up, but there was like she had been fooled to she was creating so much carnage, you know, destruction and everything. Yeah, but they fed her a bunch of blood red beer.
They filled the river with beer that was blood red to entice her to stop killing and carnage.
Yes, and actually, you slept for 3 days and then woke up and the carnage stopped.
Yeah, that was the story.
And then, so here we do this workshop. The Nile turns blood red. The next day, there's this brewery in Japan that had a massive spillage that filled into their local river that was blood red.
And that was what the headline said. Blood red.
It was like, No way.
That's
No
on my
way.
channel. I actually posted that on the short videos, you know. I actually showed that. I was like, then there
Yes.
was it. It's holy shit. Because you can attest if now that you're watching everything, I don't know what's coming when I do these. To this
No.
day, no matter what I do, spirit does not tell me everything, right? Roger joined. Hello, Roger.
Hi,
But
Roger.
I never know what's going to happen until we are there. So when she's talking about the Nile, I just thought we were getting gifts, okay? Because I worked my ass off. I've survived what should have killed me. That's why they call me mahogany. I've returned all the Christ light and I undid all the darkness, every darkness you can imagine. I undid it all. So I thought, oh, cool. We're getting gifts. This is nice. Nothing I have to do today. And then the next thing I know, and right before that, I did Ecuador. And that's when they started telling me I built the Sphinx in a past lifetime and that I was met. And I was trying to process that. But then we were getting gifts. And the next thing I know, like she said, they separated me. I'm like, where am I going? What's going on? And they put my feet in water. And it didn't all put together yet. But there was something else significant about that one. If you watch it, I uploaded it. The only way to heal through it is to get through the gates. That's what she's about to do soon. But in that one, after they put my feet in the water, I called my power back and then all the water turned blood red. And I asked later what that meant. And that is all the blood that I'm purging off this planet. Okay. So I don't know about you. I don't want to eat popcorn while I'm watching all these things go about. I'm just going to be thankful that I've done what I've done. Right. And I'm going to keep spilling my truth so that others can hopefully hear it too before it's too late. Because this is very real. Okay. When the Nile dries up, it's too late. Do you understand? That's the final portal.
Yep.
It's the final portal because right after that, I opened the 13 gates in the Nile one, but there was a crystal in the core and it was filled with dark. This is why in all the other ones, I would detach us from the core because they couldn't know what we were doing. It was filled with dark. And they crushed the one that was light. I remember that in the Nile workshop. I was like, I built it all back together. And I started calling my power back. And I was like, and I carry the eye of Ra. That's when they told me that. I'm like, holy shit. And if you don't follow those rules in the new earth, it cuts you off from that power, from that light. And so the new earth is very real. It's not a joke. It's God's earth. This is my earth. But I rebuilt the crystal with light, got rid of the dark one. And I remember it crushed. I was like, "Kah!" And it just shot like karmic purge, like just all over the earth. So when we get to the Nile workshop on the earth, that's the final karmic run.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you have to go through the gates and it's a heart review. And I opened the 13 gates and that's when they talked about the 13 gates, not 12. So the Nile is very relevant.
Yes.
So, you know, the animals were a great representation for what every human is going to be and already is going through. Now, Matthew Perry is a really good example because recently he died. He was only 54 years old. Have you ever noticed how many people are dying in their 20s, their 50s? Some of it is because they took the V and their DNA is fucked with and they can't get through the gates. Okay. That's relevant, you guys. That's why they talk about med beds. That's why they would warn you not to take that V and things, because it does manipulate your DNA. So does a lot of the foods we eat.
Right. Let's talk about the vaccine for a second because
Try to say V.
The V.
There's certain things that will trigger the.
That's right. The V. Let's talk about that for a second because I think it's important that. Well, I'm going to talk my experience. I'll use me as the example. I had got it and a booster.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the in my second in the second healing, I asked, can we remove this? And your response to me in that time was basically all in divine time. So
I already was. Yeah.
Yeah. And because it can, so in discussing this, I think it's important that people understand that, you know, when we say that, or when you say that it blocks us from things, which is absolutely relevant, and it will block you from the gates, but it doesn't mean that it will stop you if you choose to remove it with help, right? It's not something you can do yourself. We chose it with free will, but we chose it without the free will of understanding what it was doing and the implications of it.
It went against free will. They created it through
Yes.
fear, pushed it through fear, manipulated the shit out of all of you. Yep, that's against
Yes. And so, I have said to, a couple of people that I've had, because they asked if I'd had the V, and I said yes, but I've got it removed. And like, you can get it removed. And I said, okay, well, I can, and I
Yeah.
did.
Mhm.
And it has, I mean, it's taken a few healings. You've come back through, several healings down the road and recognized something else that it had an impact on. It changed our DNA. You had to scrape it out of my bone marrow. It
Yeah.
affects, us to our cellular level.
Yes.
Everything about it had absolutely nothing to do with the actual disease itself.
Because it's not real. I mean, there's already a coronavirus that existed prior, and how can you patent an illness, right? It actually has a patent number from Gates in 2017, and they'll try to say, oh, that was the original coronavirus. Like, none of this makes sense. If you truly look at it in a logical standpoint or a medical one, it doesn't make sense, which is why doctors were getting fired left and right. Okay. It was all fear-based. But I want to tell you something. I don't think you're quite putting this together yet. The very first healing I did with you with the gray matter, where the doctors could not detect things, that's exactly what that was.
Yeah. I couldn't breathe. Okay. I literally had a little portable oxygen can to help me.
And when it first outbroke, it's not that the sickness isn't, it was man-made, okay? And then they broke it out trying to blame it on China. I guarantee you it did not come. And I don't care how much you want to argue with me. Look at the plant in California that had a China address attached to it. Okay, let's put it all together, and what do you get, right? Pieces of the puzzle. But if you think about what it first did, is they couldn't breathe, and they would put the respirators on them, and it would cause them to actually have worse problems, and they would die. There is no way an oxygen tank would have helped her. It's like all this gray matter that I cleared out of here, your heart is affected. That is why also people are dropping dead from heart failure when they're only 20 years old. I mean, you have to put it all together. And what do you get? And I was going to bring this back to Matthew Perry. Everybody wants to blame the V. I will tell you right now, he sold his soul for fame. And they actually have a video of him talking about that. Now, we've made it through certain gates. I've told you guys, we're in the final timeline. We are going through the gates whether you want to or not. You can go ahead and think I'm not telling the truth. You can think I'm not the one. Think whatever you want to think, okay? But regardless, you're going to be pushed through those gates, okay? And if you have karma, if you have the shadow, if your DNA isn't viable, this is what I repeat over and over and over. And if it's fear I'm sparking, it's because your lens is through fear. That's what got you to take the V in the first place. That's what they used in the media to manipulate the shit out of people and take their power away. Okay. You will get kicked back and you won't make it through. And when I say fire will burn everything, it either will literally burn everything or you're gone. Okay. And I don't want to eat popcorn watching all this happen. It breaks my heart every time it happens, even if somebody willingly or unwillingly sold their soul for fame. Okay. Matthew actually talks about that right before he got on the show for Friends. And I would do the missing person stuff before, but I can't now because I got through the gates. It's too low vibrational, because anything we speak in the gates becomes your reality instantaneously. So, but Matthew, there's a video actually out there of him talking about it right before he got on Friends. He bent down, he told God, do whatever you got to do to give me fame. And then a week later, he got the job. And he said from then he was one miserable person. He was never happy. He was always suffering. Drugs and alcohol took over, which is also part of what I cleared. That's man-made as well. And I don't care if you believe me or not. Even marijuana, right? Like, I cannot do that now. It doesn't match the vibration. And that is actually healing modality. I will never deny that. It will continue over as a healing thing. The earth provides all that we need. Okay. But when you're using something to escape reality, that's the problem. When it manipulates your free will, that's the problem. And so a lot of these celebrities, if you haven't noticed since everything hit, they've fallen down. I miss all the movies we used to have, and all these guys like, what do we do now? There's nothing to watch, my friends. It's because it's all falling to shit. Okay. There is very dark energies in all of that. All right. And so it's a really good example. You know, he wasn't on drugs. They're already proving that with the toxicology. Okay. He sold his soul for fame. You are going to watch more. And Tupac is one I did a video on, and I said P. Diddy hired a hitman. The hitman just recently got arrested. They keep ousting P. Diddy. All these things are there, right? Everything is there. All the corruptedness, it's all a part of the same tangled web we weave. And that is the matrix that's falling. And if any of you are anchored into it, you will fall with it. It just depends on what gate's going to take you.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it really does. And, you know, speak to the fear, because that's what people do. How could she be of God? I hear this. You think I can't hear your thoughts? I actually am telepathic. Okay. Anybody who's worked with me will notice that. Holy shit, she just said what was in my head. Yes, I do that a lot. It's telepathy. My twin flame and I will do that too. Okay. It's very real. So, you know, there's people will go, well, she sparks fear. How is that of God? You just make me so afraid I crumble. It's because there's fear in you to heal. Okay. God is not fear. What I do is give your power back. I give you every tool you will ever need. I fill your bag with how many tools on a daily, right? Like, put it in your tool bag, put it in your tool bag, because something's going to come up where you're going to have to use your power and your tools to deal with it, right? Like that's our power. And that's what they've used against you with fear. Fear is not of God. Judgment's not of God. Talk about some expectations and fear, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh boy. I will say that even I still have fear, and I still have some expectations, and I still have some ego that I'm dealing with, all three, and anxiety. Those are my top four, right?
Anxiety is a byproduct of those, by the way.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
In fact, I just did one of the workshops. One of the rays, I want to say it was, might have been the Ruby Rays one, because it was pretty significant. A lot of things that came through that workshop.
Those are not on my YouTube channel, by the way. Those are only available that's when I bring down Christ light. So
yeah. Powerful. Well, question was asked, how much fear do we currently hold? And you mentioned how you could have, it could be a percentage, or it might be a feeling of being a little or a lot or whatever. This was just this last week. I saw 45%. I have a lot. And I know where most of it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I know where a big chunk of it is. And I'm trying very hard to let that go. But that involves my family. It involves my children. I have grown children who have their own free will, who have their own choice to make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to separate yourself from that and to have the faith and the trust and the knowing that as I rise in vibration and I change and I heal, that they will see this. That will spark their awakening. It will spark their healing. It will spark questions. It will spark the change necessary for them as the clock ticks. And that is hard.
Yeah.
It's real. That is raw emotion. And it is difficult.
Is it something I create, though, now that you're on my path?
No. It is something within us. But on the flip side, let me tell you, it is also the reason that keeps me motivated, because I can't see myself here without my loved ones. And as a parent, we will do everything we can for our children. Mm-hmm. And grandchildren and the grandbaby that's on the way. And my ancestors too. Everybody has put their trust in me.
I love that.
As I put my trust in myself, I made the choice to be here. I made the choice to do this before I was born, before I came back. And in doing so, how could I let myself down, let alone everybody else? And therefore I push forward.
Exactly. And Roger's asking some questions too. And I'm glad you brought this up. I'm going to give you my coming to God moment when I was bringing this about. It was in one of the first pyramid activations. And then all of a sudden, right after I did one, people died. And I asked God what was going to happen because of what I'm doing. And I did see people die. And I said, wait a minute, God, no fucking way am I a killer, right? Like, I'm like, this is what's wrong with me. And I did my own, had a mental evaluation, everything. Okay. I did, because it's not normal what I do. And until you work with me, you will not see it all the way. Okay.
Right.
This is, anybody who has worked with me can attest to that. Okay. Until you've worked with me, it's so hard to understand what I'm talking about. But God straight told me, sweetheart, it's free will.
Yep. They have the same choice that we do.
Exactly. Now I chose to continue my path to God. I chose to return God home, to undo all the pain, the carnage, the suffrage, so that we don't suffer anymore. Now it is your choice to end suffering within you and find your way home through the heart, and you get a heart review and you make it. Wait, you don't go into the new earth without a heart review and a key given. I have to tell you, yesterday I was given the key for my DM. I was given it in day 2 of my 21 days. Okay. So I know he's made it through the gates. If we align, I get to walk him through. Okay. Because that's the, and I've had these dreams. They said in the twin flame meditation that I did recently, where he took Jesus's soul, that he's been working his way through. He has. Okay. Even he's doing it. All right. So nobody is exempt, no matter what you choose. Nobody is exempt from what's coming.
Right.
Not one soul on this planet is exempt, because this is the return of Christ. Okay. Redemption day. That's a better word for it. And so you can choose. Everybody that's here is a chosen one, because you're supposed to bring your whole family through, right? Like Lisa was talking about. Now, here's the thing is Roger's been watching me for years. He's never worked with me. He won't. I don't know why. So there's some stuff he still can't see, and you can see it, okay? Because he's watched me do all this stuff. He's watched all this unfold on my channel. He does say a testimony from a second person who has been there, or who's witnessed it, is very important and powerful indeed. But then he says, why are all afraid of your kids? They're grown people already. Now, that's a little harsh statement, because until you work with me, you don't understand what I'm saying. This is the end of days. It is the end of ways for everybody, and the end of days for some. I am the one who brought about the return of Christ. I am the bride of Christ. Okay, that is, if you really look at it, I had to wake my DM up. I freed his soul from the time of Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet and Horus, as well as mine. And I united all twin flames all the way those lifetimes. Okay, that's the bride of Christ. That's what's in the Bible. That's the return. That's who I am. We are bringing through the solar flash. Okay, that light resides in me. And in my videos on my channel, when my twin flame was coming through, when he was being attacked, I kept saying, I have this white light I need to heal him with. I have this white light I need to run through him. And then he died. Okay. And I got a new one. That didn't stop. That's still there. That's why I do the movement healings. Okay. And so when you have grown children, they have free will. So even though Lisa's doing the healing, she's doing everything that she needs to do. Her children can still choose in the end, if they're grown adults, to not see it.
Yep.
And there ain't nothing we can do. No matter who you are, you're going to be affected. So if you're anchored into, but because she's done all the healing, her children have a clearer path through. It will rise in them as long as she keeps going. It did in my son. He's a full grown too. I have one that's a full grown adult as well. Okay. And it is scary. It is scary to think, wait a minute, you mean I can make it and my kid might not? Yeah. If you truly know what's going on, nobody will be unaffected.
Yeah. And that is hard to swallow. It's hard. So now, let me put it this way, because this is what's making it easier. And this is a better way to look at this. And that is, if I can do this, they can too. They will, and as I rise, they will rise. Because as I get activations, they're getting some activations. And like, and that goes to what you say about it will be easier for them. They are already more removed than
Yes.
the general population because
Yes.
of the work that I am doing. And everything everything will happen as divinely as it's meant to.
Yep.
And I just put my faith and my love in God for that.
Yes, miracles can happen, and I tell people be very careful with fear because you will create that scenario. Okay.
Yep.
We
Right. So
don't know
don't
what's
think
coming.
that.
Yes, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what's in their hearts. You can think you do, but you don't. Unless you're me or God, you don't know everybody's heart. That's like I told you, that's like going through their underwear drawer. That's a violation of personal space. Okay. I don't care how related to him you are. I'm going to get to that, Roger. He said something important. But you don't know what's in somebody's heart. People can act with anger, they can act like they're the worst person, and people judge, right? But unless you know their true heart and reasoning why they do that, you don't know shit. And there's no way you can know that unless you realize we're all of God. Our job is to return home to God and remove everything that is not of God. That's the ascension. Okay, you don't have a choice. This is the return of Christ. God made his promise. He returned his child, okay, which is not just Jesus. It's Eve and Adam. It's Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Sekhmet and Horus. Okay. Now, where love does not exist, love cannot return. Do you understand? God is love. God is unconditional love. So anything outside of unconditional love, Catholicism, Christianity, Muhammad Ali, whatever it is a division. Okay. The only division that truly exists right now is that of darkness and light. And where you are anchored into darkness, you will fall with that gate. Right. Do you understand? Just like Matthew Perry just did. Okay. And all these other, if you're really paying attention, there's a lot of people dying every day. It's like bam, the bam, the bam, the bam, 70-year-old, 20-year-old, 50-year-old, 40-year-old, 18-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. It doesn't matter. Okay. Nobody's going to escape this. And I would say quite a chunk of the population won't make it through. Some of them are not of God at all. Okay. Others will refuse to go on the path home because it's not easy. And some won't allow their shadow to give them space to see clearly. Okay. Now, Roger said that his dad threw him to the wolves. That's because he didn't have love in his heart. He didn't understand how to parent through love. He was taught to parent through what they would call, what do they call that? Tough love. Yep. And that is not love at all. Okay. That is actually something that was taught as part of the conditioned response, just like judgment, just like fear, just like religion. Okay. Now, Roger, you are definitely anchored into the religious aspect. I've said many times you have a big shadow you have to heal. Okay. And that is what I'm talking about. All right. There's a good example. I love that you brought that up because he didn't know any better, though, did he? It's not necessarily, maybe your dad hurt you very much so, and maybe there's some abandonment issues that created. We've all got some of that, right? Just like my dad did to me. Don't cry, stand up, shake it off. Yet my shin was just shattered by a metal baseball bat, right? Like, get over it. Don't cry. It's all this conditioned response that is not God. Okay. So we're all in the same boat. The one that's sinking, yeah, except for the ones that do my path. Now, Lisa talked about that, is that and this is not about an ego. It's not like I favor you. Okay. I don't just put you through my workshops and go, I love you more than anybody else. Now you're separated and you're going to rise above and others are going to fall. Because when you work with me, you're working right with God. That's who I am. I don't care. You can deny that all you want. It's real. Okay. You can't activate pyramids being a normal being. All right. It just doesn't happen. You can read them. You can hear them. You can read the earth. You can't activate them. You can't move mountains. You can't activate poles. You can't shift poles unless you are a sentient being. Okay. Not normal. All right. That's the only way it was messed with, is because the fallen angel knew how to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's where the poles got shifted. And scientifically, that has been proven, right? Lots of people talk about that. I shifted them back and created 5 more because I took us into 7D. So when you go through these workshops and you're in my path, I put a bubble around you and your family. So where fear resides, that's the shadow that you're healing, that I'm bringing out of you. Okay. Knowing that, hey, I'm doing this because I am a chosen one. You're all chosen ones. And this is what I talk about. You can't let money stop you. You can't let fear stop you. No guilt, no nothing. All of that is a conditioned response to keep you away from God. This is what they worked so hard to do. Through everything they teach you from the school system, you got to work, you're a slave. Okay. When you actually look at the contract too from Jesus that I undid, the false holy grail, if you truly watch that one, now Israel is free. There's no coincidence to the fact that there's a war now going on, because they know that contract was undone. Okay, if you're truly paying attention to the work that I did, Obama came out going, our scripture has been undone, shortly after I did that. And I'm like, oh shit, Amy, look at that. And she's like, oh my God, I know. Like, they know what I've done. Okay, what I've done is very real. We can't deny it. And so when you do the path, it's not just you you're affecting. When you choose not to do the path, it's not just you you're affecting.
Yeah.
This is why everybody's a chosen one that's here.
Well, you know what? I tell you this. I have been in spirit school for 7 months. And I will say it like that because I haven't spent so much time doing one thing since the last time I was in school. So really, and that's how I look at this. It's not just to watch the video to make it to the end of the path. Like, I could have done that. I could have chose that path and just got through it super quick. But
no, you couldn't. That's ego.
Okay, true.
That's ego. You can't do that. I'd have kicked your ass.
Well, I still could have taken a shorter cut than the process of which I find myself doing.
I see what you're saying, because there is an energy that has gotten through the gates where it was just like, I'm going to get through the gates, and that was their main purpose. And then you're missing some things.
Yeah. My purpose, my goal is to have full understanding by the time I get there.
Yes, you need it.
And so, like, so in speaking to the collective who's listening, because Brianna and I have already spoke about this, but my process, since I started the path of righteousness, and I had already done a bunch, I was already like halfway through really by the time that she'd created the path. And so this was what was the remainder, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when I started that, which was right about the first part of September-ish, somewhere there, I got a journal, and I decided that my process before was always listening to every video twice, because the first time I almost always fell asleep, and the second time hopefully I would hear more of what I didn't hear, usually still fell asleep. So even if I made it and I stayed awake, the comprehension with the brain fog that I've had has been far less than I would have loved. So my process has been now is I experience the workshop in its full meditative state. And then I come back and I listen to it again as an active listener. And I write down all the pertinent things that took place into a journal. And I will go back through the first half again when I'm done to have a complete journal of the process. That has taught me so much. And then I can go back and I can write down the gifts that I received. And this comes here's a full circle experience from what we started talking with when I had said in the beginning of our conversation today about how you start this process and one thing builds on another, and you get to a point, and as I'm sure probably every single one of us has, and I recently did, as I got really frustrated, and Brianna had to stop my coaching. She's like, girl, basically you gotta, she didn't say this is in my terms, but shit or get off the pot. Like, you got to remove some of this anxiety. You have to make the choice. And although in my mind I was allowing the anxiety to take over, which was keeping me from meditating.
Yep.
And although I still struggle with meditation to I'm going to reword that.
Good. I like that.
I want to meditate more and be more clear. And so when I do, I set my intention, and that is always part of my intention, that I can connect fully, purely, and heart in as much within my heart center as possible.
Girl, you have learned so much from me. I love you so much.
I have come so far, and I was going to do double pats on the back because we have to be proud of ourselves. It is so easy for each of us to stand in our own way and stand in judgment of ourselves, and to speak unkindness to ourselves and beat ourselves up like nobody's business. And the best response to that is, I say, speak to yourself as if you were speaking to your child or your best friend.
Love.
Because we deserve that just as much. Would we be disrespectful to our child, to our friend?
Hopefully
Would
not.
we be unloving? Would we, you know,
Some people might,
maybe
though.
we shouldn't be, right?
Yeah,
Because
some people
sometimes we
might.
are,
Mm-hmm.
but we shouldn't be. Talk to ourselves as we would want to be spoke to,
Love.
with love and
Yeah.
kindness and patience,
Yes.
and allow for that to come through.
And that's hard. Part of the journey that I have you on is a self-love journey.
And boy, I'm that's hard to understand. It really is, because I feel like because I know how far I've come, so I know how much more love for myself that I have. But I also do recognize when I sit back and I say, because I'll question, I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm blah, 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 blah. And I go, yeah, I see it. I can do better here, and I will do better there. It is a journey.
Yes.
So pieces upon pieces upon pieces, right? And I got to this point where I had an experience. I had an amazing opportunity for my birthday. My mother took me to Sedona, Arizona, where I got to connect for the first time, really, in a matter that allowed all the pieces to come together in one moment, in validation, confirmation.
And you wouldn't have had that if you weren't on this path.
No, I wouldn't have ever thought to go to Arizona. Oh my God, it's a desert. Who wants to go there? It was my mind. Now I want to go back.
That's funny you bring that up, because when I had my awakening and I was meditating, spirit would take me there. I would go sit on this weird pillar, like cliff. There was nothing else around me, and I would meditate in Sedona, Arizona. There's a ley line there. Yeah, it's a ley line. And Manitou is where I had my awakening. That's also a ley line, and I got to clear it because there was a lot of dark magic there as well. So when you really truly realize how much healing I've done to the earth, you'll realize why nobody has a choice. The earth has already ascended. And if to remain on it, you have to ascend with her. That's why I say all these healers that are still healing and they haven't changed the way they're healing, they're not in the awakening process, they're not getting the DNA activations, they are not healing you with God's light, because my friends, God has returned to this planet, from the core to the crystalline grid, to all the pyramids, to the trees you find upon this earth, to the heartbeat of the love, of the life, of the one. It is my earth, and I love it very much. And if you watch the recent workshop that I posted with the earth's death and rebirth, and I took her through, and if you also watch the one where I did the protection for Israel, that shows you that I carry the white light and the solar flash that will affect all of you coming soon. Because my DM got his key recently too, so he's about to go through the gates whenever he's ready. But in the protection for Israel, I drew up the white light through all of the vessels that could be receptive, that are still open, even though we've lost some of the 144,000. This tells you how real it is. But I use the trees upon the earth because I ascended her. She was able to carry the white light up, which you also don't know. And you may have seen this. And I I don't know if you did the final Sedona one where I ascended the angels as well. When I say that,
I did, yes, but I
people
have to do
don't
it again.
yeah.
When
Yeah, but
it's
I
time.
ascended the angels as well.
Mhm.
Why would I be able to do that? Okay. And people don't believe this. I've said that to people and they fall off so quickly. They go into judgment and say I'm full of shit. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not full of shit. Okay.
No.
Angels, no, at all. Okay. I took them to Sedona. I dumped all of their energy from the past as well, because even they're ascending. Okay. Because everything is ascending around you. There's no choice, no ifs, ands, or buts. I took the white light up into the dome to help protect Israel, and barely anybody watched that one. And it's quite significant for who I am and what the event is.
Yeah. I say, I told you this yesterday, actually, but for those who are listening, this journey is unique.
Oh yeah.
It's a struggle. It's rough. It's every bit of difficult as you can imagine.
Yep.
On one hand.
Yeah. I love this.
The other hand provides love and joy and kindness and reward upon reward, abundance upon abundance.
I'm like smiling from ear to ear. We didn't coach this, by the way. This is I love
It's
you.
and it's priceless. There you cannot. No, it's worth my soul.
Yeah, yes. Oh my God, it's the best thing I've heard all day. I'm gonna cry. Oh my God. Because it's a fight for your soul. Oh my God, Lisa, that made me cry. I'm sorry.
And I knew this. I knew this. I knew this. I'm going back to Michelle again. I knew it at that moment. It was like I needed to know who you were. I needed to have these healings. I needed to listen and to stem back. So I shared this with you personally. In shoot, darn, now I'm confusing where I got this information because I've had some pretty significant interactions with the angels lately. And I'll share some of that with you.
Because she's in both
Because,
academies at one time.
yes, I'm like on spirit school fast track.
Yes, she is. She's in my alchemy academy and the path to righteousness at the same time.
And listening to everything that you put out, I don't have a lot of time for other things. I don't, and that's where I have to have balance.
But that, well, yes.
But no, yes,
Right.
this is important. This is the biggest, most important piece. But still, getting to love life and experience the earth and do those things are just as important because the earth is changing.
Yes. Yes. I love that you said that.
So,
Man.
Archangel Gabriel came to me. And this was in my turning point for my meditation, my ability to meditate clearly, comfortably, and feel a connection. And he came to me and gave me a song. And he said to me, he said, free your soul. No, I'm sorry, free your mind, and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
I'm not a singer like you are, so I can't carry a tune unless I'm listening to the artist. So, excuse that was a bad rendition, but it was free your mind. And
don't be so shallow. Yeah, it's
yes. And from that point forward, that was, and the feeling, and you guys will never understand this until you've been here, till maybe, and I don't know if this is strictly part of the Alchemy Academy or maybe that, I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. I would never trade any of this for the world. And that was my confirmation that everything that I have been doing, all the pieces built up to this one moment of confirmation that I needed to be a clear enough channel, to be pure of heart enough, to be open enough to hear what God was needing me to hear. And in that one statement right there, changed my perspective truly in, okay, now instead of every time, because I'm a numerology person, I see numbers. I've seen numbers my whole life. And instead of immediately going to, oh, okay, it's 5:25. Well, that's a synchronicity to me. And look, and immediately going to my phone to see what does it mean, stop for a minute, be still and drop in.
Yes.
And even if nothing came, that moment of calmness,
Yes.
maybe I just needed that moment of calmness.
I love this. You're putting
And
everything I've taught you. And this is the academy. Yeah.
and it's been a journey. And
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially with somebody with brain fog who writes it down and still trying to comprehend it all. And this beautiful soul here tells you it will all make sense one day. And I believe that. I know it will. But in the moment, you're like, man, I really want to put together some pieces and I really want to see something. And I really need confirmation because we're humans and we always want immediate gratification. And you're not going to get immediate gratification. No. I'll tell you that right now. You're not going to get that. And you have to be okay with that. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time. You have to be dedicated. And you have to love yourself all the way through this whole process.
Yes.
So you can get to the point where I'm at today, which is not finished. Well, even if I make it, when I make it through the gates, I won't be finished.
No.
But you need to do all of this and still have love for yourself and be patient. But know it's coming because it is. And now I get to see it. Now the other day, it was the ruby rays. And we got a guide. And I'm coming closer because I really want you guys to hear this. We got a guide given to us, a guide to be with us for the next year. And that guide is to help us master everything that we're being taught.
I forgot that. Yeah.
My guide, who I questioned and then cried about it, is Lord Sananda. Jesus is my guide. And I said that can't be.
Wait a minute. Who are you working with?
Yeah. Why am I feel so special? I felt so special to have Jesus be my guide. And then I felt guilty for, like, as if the other angels aren't just as wonderful, because that anybody, whoever my guide would have been, it is a miraculous experience, and the amount of gratitude and is abundant. Yes. But Jesus is my guide, and I kind of, asked for proof, because we do that, right? Yeah. And Jesus had come to me when I was a young adult in a dream. And it's very profound. My whole life, I remember this. And he said to me, he says, now remember what I've told you. And all these years, I can't remember what he told me. And it's given me such profound sadness because I couldn't remember, and it was so important. And then I question, there would be times of questioning. I would say, was this real? What? So I asked him. I said, if you're Jesus, what did you tell me? And he said, to remember who you are. And I started to cry because I'm on that path to remembering who I am.
Yes. This is why you're an apostle. Yeah.
And I said, I couldn't feel him again, because there's a thing. I get these energies. I feel dizzy. It feels weird. It feels weird, but good at the same time, right? And all of a sudden I couldn't feel him. And I said, Jesus, are you still here? And he said to me, child, I am here with you, whether you feel me or not. Mm-hmm. So I say to each one of you, take this moment, dig deep. What's really important to you? Because your soul is the only thing that goes forward.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
This is a battle for the soul. You hit
So
that nail on the head.
choose for it to go forward. I hope that you do.
And I have to tell you, the ruby rays is when that happened. There's significance in that because my DM and I come through the ruby rays. And she is referring the path to righteousness in which everything I did in creating the ascension is on. And that is when I brought down Christ's light. The return of God. This is about remembering who you are. And you have already answered why you're an apostle. You are such a beautiful soul. And I am so glad that when I met you, you chose your soul over the shadow. And you continued with me no matter how much I invoke your shadow.
Yep.
You are strong, you are magnificent, and you are sensitive at the same time. And that is what creates the most beautiful thing I have in front of me right now. This is a battle for your soul. And every day you're choosing your soul. That's the path home to God. And if God returns the bride of Christ and says, but my darling, your relationship to God is determined by the one he sent about. And I'm sitting here telling you it's a masculine and a feminine. The bride of Christ was sent here to free Jesus's soul, which I did. And we are uniting. We have been uniting for the past 2 or 3 years, which was a battle that we almost both died on. And my DM did die. That was very, very, very real. Okay. And my new one, there's no coincidence. I have to say this. Yesterday, I was given his key, which has a ruby on it.
So beautiful.
And he took on Jesus's soul how many weeks ago? Like a week ago, when I did the twin flame healing. Everything on this channel shows you who I am. You just have to be willing to listen. Now, Lisa also hit that on the head that sometimes you have to watch things more than once. Why? Because what God says, it's very layered. And it sparks your shadow and you can't hear.
Yeah. And the next time you watch it, you'll hear something else. But then you've had a chance to heal and will make sense. And when this is all done, I'll probably start these all over again for a third time. Because I don't ever want to feel I don't ever want to feel like I felt before. I only ever want to feel how I'm feeling and how I will feel going forward.
Thank you.
That is connected to self and connected to God and connected to Mother Earth.
Yes.
And so much so that I recently just got a tattoo of Mother Gaia on my calf with her roots going down my ankle so I could be even more connected.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Everything is symbolic to me. I don't have a single tattoo on my body that doesn't have absolute meaning.
Yeah, I love that.
And
beautiful. And you are close to walking through the gates. There's just a little more trials. I think 2 more, maybe 3. It depends. And I will be seeing you to give you your key to do, and you'll see what a heart review is. In that, I go through your whole entire karmic contract. I've done 4 of them now. Jacinth and mine happened at the same time because she did mine while I was like describing it and she was holding space, and then I did hers. So that's why that happened that way. But I take your whole entire karmic contract and it's red. And if all karma is cleared, it goes in ashes like,
oh,
give you your key. I purify you just like I did in the 13 gates in Patreon. And then we walk you through the gates. And then from there, you go through a rebirth complete. Everything's done, and so you're reborn into the new earth, and it still kicks your ass a little, and then they're like, be careful what you say, and you're like, where are you, angels? And they're like, oh sweetheart, I'm right here, use your power. And it's like, oh shit, okay. It's a whole new different ball game, let me tell you. And I'm like, wait, what did I do? Wait. It's rough, but it's great all at the same time because you have to be in your full power, and you can attest to what that means, I'm sure.
So I'm trying, and in all honesty, I'm still nervous, right? Because the brain fog that I've had that is lifting. I do see it. It's lifting. Mm-hmm. But I need that comfort right now to remember everything that we've learned, and I have journals of it all, so it's just going back.
But it's all in here. So
It
you're
is.
giving your power here. You want to analyze, you want to see it in the mind, but the mind is detaching, because one of the portals you go through is the battle of the mind. Everything has to be in the heart. So I love that you actually said that, because part of the heart review is being open and purified in the heart. That's where God is. That's the significance of that. So there's no way you can forget anything, because it's written in the blueprint of your soul.
Right. Yes.
And part of it will come as more of awakening. And because if everything hit us all at once, we would go insane. God is too,
Yeah.
what I do is too much.
We would walk away. We'd be like, oh, that's crazy. Forget that.
And
And too
people
tough or
do.
whatever.
People do that all the time. People, and what do you want to say to end this video out? What would you have to say to the people that go, I can do this all by myself? I'm doing it every day. I'm doing it. I'm already healing it.
Slight chuckle first. um, Kudos. Good luck. We can only take ourselves so far. I have done a lot of self-help in the years prior, and it gets you, it puts you on the right path to get you to where you need to go, but it's not going to
Where
take
you found me. Exactly.
Yeah. But if you have found Bree, listen, open your heart, get out of your mind and into your heart, because this, exactly what she just said, our mind can't comprehend what's happening. It's not capable. It's not capable right now.
Nope.
But our heart is and can understand. You have to surrender.
Yep.
Surrender the fact that you can't do this by yourself, and that it's okay.
I love that.
It's okay. It's okay to get this assistance. That's what this is. It's amazing.
It's God saying, hey, I've changed the world. Here's your path home.
Yeah.
I promised you the bride of Christ. I promised you the return of Christ. Now I ask for your faith.
Yep. So give it.
That's what the Bible says. That's the part that's accurate. Okay. You can actually take everything I did and compare it to Revelations and go, holy shit, this is real. Now, there was one comment on my Facebook recently I want you to kind of attest to, is she literally said, well, how can you be? Because the whole world doesn't see you. So if nobody can see you, you can't be the chosen one. And that's how she said it, with that energy. And it floored me, because if you know what happened on my twin flame journey, without him there loving me, it's hard for people to see. That's why I did the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Ra activation for the brain recently. And if you put it all together, it will make sense. Okay. Because we have to be able to see clearly. I am the Eye of Ra, he is the Eye of Horus. So without us together, it is more difficult to see. Okay. But I will tell you right now, is that was an ego response. That was a judgmental comment, even though she wants to say it wasn't, because she's going through an expectation of, well, it should have been this way.
I would say my response truly is everything comes in divine timing.
And in a divine way.
In the divine way.
That you can't create or imagine or expect.
Because that would be here, not here.
Exactly.
So I thought the same things, right? Like it's not that the question is bad. It's the not taking the moment to look beyond the question, look for the answer.
Which I provided, yes. And she did not click.
I came in full force. I literally was watching your videos for 8 to 10 hours a day.
What you guys don't realize is when I had my awakening, that was my life. It was spoken the other day on my Facebook page that it is an investment of your time to watch these videos. And what I'm going to tell you is it's an investment in God, and that is your way through. What matters right now? Does money and fame and planning for your children's future matter when you're not making it home to God? No. This is the end of ways. This is the end of days. It's the end of ways for all. So the only thing that matters is home, God, the heart. So if you're investing your time watching these videos, guess what you're doing? You're connecting to God.
Yes.
And that word investment was a detriment to that person's soul.
Yeah.
So find your way home to God, because that is the only way to stay. And some will get to stay. There's 3 levels of removal. Okay. There's a handful of people. They always call them selected by God. What it is you take the path home, get your heart review, and you make it into the new earth of a pure heart, pure soul. You've cleared all your karma and all your past lives. Okay. That's the path that she's on. That's the one I opened up through the gates of the 13th. And heaven. Okay. That's the ones that stay. They don't die. They're reborn here. The next level are the ones that will go not to heaven, because heaven's here, but they're still with God, right? But they can't make it through all the gates. They make it through some. Their heart is pure to a certain degree, but they won't be able to stay here. Because why? Because I ascended the earth.
Yeah.
So you must match her vibration to stay, and that is of God, of pure love. So investing your time in what God brought about, his promise, is a necessity. That is the only way home. Then the third group will go and will never know life this way. Some will call that hell. It's to a place void of God completely, and they will never find their way back.
Yeah.
So I thank you for being here with me, Lisa.
Thank you for having me. Oh my
While.
gosh. Boy, can we talk, right?
I know, this was so fun. This was so good, actually, because, people hear me, but not a lot of people comment saying, hey, I've been there. I know what she's talking about. And so honestly, we did not, this is not coached. I don't like to go over it, and she can attest to that. She's like, what do you want to talk about? It's like, I don't know. We're just going to let it go, because it has to be pure. This was a very pure interview, a very pure, you get to meet somebody who met me, had the same judgments as everybody else, because guess what? I spark that, right? That's what I talk about. I spark your shadow. Don't let it take you down. Okay. And she didn't listen. She chose her soul every time. And this is where it gets you. Okay. So spend time with your heart and not your head. All right. Spend time feeling and not having to know, because those are the differences.
Absolutely.
So thank you for meeting Lisa, because she will be the next apostle. By the way, we were supposed to have 10. And only a few made it through. And I don't know if any other apostles will exist. When I met her, I read her heart immediately, because that's who I am. I can't do anything but that. And so no matter what you spew at me, if I can read your heart, I know where you're going to go. Okay. As long as you allow it. And I knew she was going to be an apostle. And I asked her if she wanted that path. And she said yes. So she will also be a healer when she is ready. She will graduate my academy here in probably a couple weeks. Okay. So we will be doing another when she's ready. When she's ready to do the healings, you will see her again. She can offer some free healings, some free messages, because part of the new earth is being in your power. You are all powerful healers. You're all powerful creators. We all carry the light of God in our heart, and I have brought your path home. It's very real. So thank you for being here, Lisa. I will have your gift. I appreciate you so much. I love you dearly, and I will see you later at 4:44 for day 3 of the 21 days.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yes. So it never ends, you guys. It's always about learning and growing and finding our way home to love. Love is a big deal, unconditional love, and you'll see where you're not in that every day we go on. So
and I just want to throw out there, guys, what we're talking about here is the 21-day meditation. This is only day 3. She records them all. Join us. Get the first 2. You catch up.
It's
Come
amazing.
on.
Oh my God, this one's amazing.
And it's about love. Oh my God, it's so inexpensive for 21 days of full healing. Holy crap.
That's every day we're doing ridiculous. A full healing.
It's ridiculous. And it's priceless.
I love it. This one's so great. And like I said yesterday, we went into the Garden of Eden and we got bathed with the Fountain of Youth after we smashed all our walls. And so it was so cool. It was
so much healing. So much
and
healing.
that is when Malachi came in out of the blue and gave me my DM's key. And now that means he's made his way to the gates, but I'll be the one to walk him through. So
I am so excited for that.
That's huge.
And I can't wait till we get to meet him.
Oh my God. I know. I don't I try not to think about like, is this real? No, everything has bit me before. Like
Of course it is, but
very
of course it
painful.
is.
It's been very painful. And I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it. Like that's where I go to it because this twin flame is very complicado.
You just tell him it's about dang time. Come on now. You
No,
got this.
I've been having dreams. It's really crazy. Like I've had dreams where he commented on one of my videos and then I showed up at his house and I got scared and I ran. And then I had another dream. That was like Brandon or something in my dream. I'm like, wait, I've met you before. It was so weird. And then there was another dream where I was getting married and my daughter colored my dress. This is in the last week or two. This has been happening like in succession. Okay. And she like colored my dress with crayon and I'm like getting ready to walk down the aisle. And then I had a complete blowout panic attack. And I'm like, I can't marry anybody but my twin flame. And I ran. I was a runaway bride. I was out of there so fast. But that
awesome.
goes with my original twin flame because I almost got married to Sean before his and my soul went and I chose him. So I was like, that's weird. And then I got his key. So my
There are no coincidences.
working his way.
Right?
No, he's been working his way home. So that is the return of Christ. You guys watch the videos. Okay. Now, Roger says, may everyone here have a blessed, stay safe, and have a spectacular week ahead. Absolutely. May God shine upon all of you. Well, if you know right where you're at, sunshine upon you.
Roger, join us.
He's tried. He says he's trying to pay off his credit card. Now, what would you have to say to that? Like, money is energy. And where there is doubt, money will follow. Okay. Where your vibration is high and you say, God, I want this. Can you please bring in the money? It will. It's not the money stopping you ever.
If the money was a problem, I would never be here. And credit card debt, $35,000. That's where I'm at right now.
Part of what I teach you, though, is to purify that money and then call it in, my friends, because the new earth is not what it was before. Okay. Money will go forward, but in a purified karmic way. Because I put that through a portal too. And I say that all the time. So where you let money stop you, that is not of God. God says, oh, my darling, if you're on your path, I got you. Don't you worry.
Yeah. And Roger, it's $100.
For the 21 days, the path to righteousness. I offered him the how to call your power back for I like gave him a choice of what to pay, but
I know. Weren't you going to do that, Roger? Didn't you say that you were going to do that exchange? What happened there?
And he didn't have the money. But see, the thing is he needs to open his heart. He's stopping himself. It's not the money, because I would have practically gave that away.
Well, I hope to see you, Roger.
I do too. I'm waiting. I'm like, when are you gonna get it? Like, here's the clock on his heart. I can tell it nudges him every day, but that's okay. Everybody is on their own path. And right. What God's saying, one of the things recently is sometimes people need to see something major before what I say makes sense.
I think that doing some of the healings, and these are pretty intense healings, you will get that. So
yeah, otherwise it'll play out harshly, and you don't want to have that happen. That's what God said, is sometimes people need to see it before they believe it, and that's okay. You hear that all the time. Ooh. All right, so I guess we're gone, guys. She's out. So thank you for joining us. I will see you guys later. That's our cue. Have a great day, everybody.